Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I like to discuss some think tank polling which believes it has the answer to Nigel Farage's Achilles heel. A survey was conducted where Farage's vulnerabilities, shall we say, on multiple issues were put to thousands of people to see which one made them lower their respect for Reform UK and specifically their leader. Let's see what they found. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So to begin with, let's go over the main lines which the survey used, all issues which potentially put Farage in conflict with key voters. Some of them are popular Labour policies which might attract voters to the government. Others were Reform UK features which could act as a repelling factor. Each angle was used against a different group of people. The first was asylum seeker deportation. They used a clip from a news on Sky News. Because the Conservatives just weren't processing claims at all for the last few years, Labour's efforts to clear the backlog has resulted in record deportations. Even though most claims turn out to be genuine, obviously some are not upheld. So Labour have been able to boast huge deportation figures. After all, the more claims you process, the more deportations you're going to carry out. The second was Richard Tice exposing himself as being a climate change denialist. Most people, even most Reform UK voters, understand that climate change is not only real but a serious threat. The third was Labour's attack lines on Farage about his support for privatising the NHS. The fourth was the money which Reform UK has taken from various special interest groups, and the vast majority of that from oil and gas companies. Again, although a different group would link up well with the climate change denialism, like if you put it to people that Farage is anti-net zero against all the scientific expertise, but that he gets almost all of his money from oil companies, might you not think maybe his policies are driven more by donations than genuine belief? And the fifth was to link to Trump. Tying Farage to Trump, something that's really easy because Farage is more than happy to be tied to Trump. He agrees with Trump on 100% of everything he says. Now, all of these seem very sensible lines of attack. They're not made up attacks. You can prove them all. And all of them, if discussed with the public, could potentially weaken Reform UK, either by making people think better of Labour or worse of Reform. But which did best? Well, according to the researchers, there were two standout lines. The first was reminding people that Farage wants to be Britain's Trump. The results showed an 8 to 10% decline in people's favourability towards Farage specifically here. Now, that doesn't surprise me. Even amongst Reform voters, Trump is not popular. And I've said before that the more damage Trump does, both domestically and abroad, the more likely it will be that British voters will consider Farage too much of a risk. Because the electoral situation is this. You can really break down what Labour's strategy against Reform UK should be really quite simply. Nigel Farage and Reform UK are a mystery box. They're very much like Brexit. It is entirely possible people will vote for the mystery box, but only if they think the risk is worth the reward. But the reward is largely unknown. So from Labour's point of view, how do you stop them doing that? Well, you ramp up the risk associated with Reform UK and reduce the reward. And you do it in different ways. You ramp up the risk by pointing out the damage which Reform UK are likely to cause. So linking Farage to Trump would do this. Trump is chaotic and people don't want chaos. Now, you might imagine that this is bad news for Labour because to take advantage of this factor, you're going to need to describe Trump very uncomplimentary. And obviously Labour aren't going to do that at the moment because they're having to work very closely with Trump. However, if the election does take place after the full 5 years in 2029, Trump's term has ended. Now, we don't quite know what the situation will be in the USA by then, but it is entirely possible that Labour will be free to highlight the chaos, at least, caused by Trump and his attitude to politics and use it to hammer Farage by then. So all's not lost. And the biggest factor also works to raise the risk of Reform UK in government as well. It was the money coming from Reform UK, from the fossil fuel industry. They get almost all of their funding from the fossil fuel lobby. The researchers found that it tapped into the public's cynicism about politicians. See, Farage wins some support by claiming to be different to the others. Boris Johnson did this in 2019. He didn't try to defend the Tories' record after 9 years. He said, David Cameron, Theresa May, they were rubbish, weren't they? I'm different. I've got a different attitude. I'm completely different. You know, we're going to have public services, we're going to have levelling up. Oh, it's going to be brilliant. Farage does the same sort of thing, right? He tries to be the same thing. I'm different to the others. That he can't be bought. That's his appeal, right? But in reality, he's more in hock to corporate interest than any other political leader. But this line also works to explain why Farage is hostile to Labour's workers' rights improvements, which are popular, why he's against the higher windfall taxes on oil giants, which is popular, as well as why he's against climate action, which is popular. You know, so both of these work to raise the risk of Reform UK. It makes you pause for thought and go, oh, kind of, well, I like the sound of these things they're doing, but I don't know. I don't want to lose my workers' rights. I don't want the NHS privatising, you know, and I don't want them to knacker, climate action because he's in hock to the oil industry. So they all raise the risk. With the Reform government, there's a high chance of chaotic policy making a reduction in workers' rights, more likely, lower taxes for corporate giants, which means either higher taxes for everyone else or cuts to public services. But you also want to reduce the reward associated with them as well. So the way Labour do this is by identifying the policies that Reform UK have that are popular and trying to effectively say to the public, and this is what they're trying to do, and say to the public, well, we're sort of doing the same thing just in a different way, right? Different methods, but it's going to achieve the same outcome. So improvements to the NHS, dealing with immigration, better housing and so on. Now, the results here were very interesting. The group introduced to news on Labour's deportations, it turns out didn't impress them at all. Now, the implication could be, as I've expressed at times before, there are some issues where Labour just cannot outbid Reform UK. Those who care about asylum enough, when I say care about asylum, I mean, care enough to hate asylum seekers, should we say, to vote on it. Those who have that, who consider that issue serious enough to vote on it, they're going to see Reform as being stronger. Whereas the others can be won over with better housing, public services and jobs. These results are not definitive proof, but they are another indicator that Labour are making the same mistake as the Tories in chasing after votes on the wrong issues. There's no evidence Labour can match Reform on immigration. Yes, they can get immigration lower. Reform will say they'll get it lower still. Yes, they can talk about deportations of failed asylum seekers. Reform UK, so there will be no asylum seekers. Whatever Labour do, and they can demonstrate, they can beat the Tories. They can beat the Tories' record. Absolutely, they already are doing. They cannot beat Reform UK because Reform UK are going to claim all sorts of wonderful things. So the same people who believe the lies about immigration, however, then you think to yourself, so what motivates them to be anti-immigration? Well, it's dissatisfaction with their own lives. Now, Labour are working on making those aspects of their lives better. So lean more into that messaging. It's like I said before, Labour should talk about the things Farage doesn't want to talk about. Okay, that can't be his similarity to Trump right now, but it can be everything else. It can certainly be his financial dependence on the fossil fuel industry. It can be his opposition to workers' rights and taxes on the oil and gas giants. And it can be his opposition to clean, secure energy. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And for more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.